Hello Summoners and welcome back to another ProGuides video. My name is Nathan Ng and today we'll be talking about our predictions for the 15 most broken champions on patch 12.5. One of the most important things in a constantly evolving game like League of Legends is to be able to adapt with the meta. And that's why we're here for you. If you want to know what's going to be OP before the patch hits, you'll be ready to hit the ground running without having to test if that one buff or nerf really made that much of a difference. And if you don't know how to play any of these OP picks or you're just a little bit rusty, this will give you a few days to brush up on them in some normals or on a smurf. Before we get started, I just want to say that this list is not in any particular order. It's just a list of champions that we think are going to be some of the strongest, most influential picks on this patch. We'll start things out with support Senna. Adding a slow to Senna's Q really pushed her over the edge as a broken pick. And while Riot has dished out a nerf since then, that nerf was only targeted at Senna as a bot lane carry. When you play her as a support, she's super broken, especially if you pair her with a tanky boy like Tahm Kench or Cho'Gath. Senna is a good champion in any meta, and honestly, she's especially broken right now because most of the supports being played in the bot lane are enchanters. These guys put no pressure on you and let you easily farm up souls in the early game, so you're guaranteed to be online by the time it's time to group up in the mid game. To top things off, there are plenty of broken items to build on Senna, so you can adapt to any situation. Whether you're trying to learn to abuse the broken champions on this list, or how to deal with them when you end up on the wrong side of the matchup, if you really want to speed up that process, you should check out ProGuides.com. We have courses from all your favorite streamers and pros, like Core JJ, Afremu, and Xmithy to really help you understand how to play your role. And if you want a more personalized experience, we have coaches available 24/7 ready to help you guys become the best. Our coaches are top tier players that have spent years climbing the solo queue ladder to get where they are now, and they're ready to share everything that they've learned with you. Anyway, let's get back on topic, shall we? Riot has had a growing trend over the past few months in champion balance. They take a champion that's doing poorly in their main role and give them buffs, even if said champion is already doing really well in a less popular role. Surprising to literally nobody, the champion ends up being utterly broken in that second role. Just take a look at Veigar. Well, now the exact same thing's happening to Kennen. Kennen either gets stomped or is just doing okay against most top laners, but he completely destroys almost all of the mid lane matchups. While this buff isn't exactly huge, more offensive power is more power, and he's gonna bully the mid laners, especially assassins, even harder. Our next pick is Tryndamere. While Kennen dominates one solo lane but struggles in another, it doesn't really matter where you play Tryndamere. He can win a good amount of matchups, and the ones that he can't, he can just farm up and outscale. All it takes is a couple of items, and he can completely take over his side lane. Most games, the name of the game is splitting to win. Even when you're super fed, if you group up, you'll probably be kited to death in most fights. Plant yourself in a side lane and take turrets, diving anybody that gets in your way. Another broken solo laner that we have for you is Riven. The fact that Riven is untouched after multiple patches at the top is kind of astounding. Meanwhile, we're seeing nerfs to champions that I feel are way less impactful. Gwen jungle. Really? Anyway, Riven is pretty hard to learn, but when played well, can win or at least survive any matchup in the game. It takes a long time to actually get there with her, but if you want to climb, she's worth the effort. She's a 1v9 machine. Yet another OP tier champion returning to this list is Ahri. She's actually getting some nerfs this patch, but those nerfs are incredibly insignificant. In case you haven't seen what they are, her W is losing 10 damage and is having his mana cost go up by 5, and her E's cost is going up by 10. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that she's still gonna be the best mid in the game with no competition. Sure, the WMax Leandri's build is hit a bit, but I think that players are overhyping it anyway, and that has been popularized by not so good players. The one-shot build is the right way to go. Taking things away from the solo laners, our next pick is Azeri. Despite being beaten really hard by the nerf bat since her release, Azeri is an insanely strong carry, albeit one with a very high skill floor. With her ultimate down, she's pretty mediocre, but when you have it ready to go, she's still the best teamfighter in the game, even after all those nerfs. Fair warning, playing Azeri requires some pretty high APM, so do some wrist stretches before and after the game. We've been talking about how strong Diana jungle has been ever since Riot has buffed her passive again, but she's just not limited to farming away on a PvE role. She's also very strong as a mid laner. Diana does well against most opponents, but her best use is to counterpick other assassins. Usually, assassin v assassin matchups are volatile, skill-based matchups where a single slip-up may result in a death. But with Diana, you can straight up just overpower any opponent that you can land a Q on. Once you do, you go in with your E for a big bursty trade that your opponent is forced to run from. And if they try to hit you back, you have a shield that does damage as well. Next up is Renata. We knew that Renata's kit had some insane potential when we first saw it, but we were a bit hesitant to call her OP right from the get-go. Now after we've seen her in action some more, we can definitely say that she's an obscenely strong scaling support. That being said, Renata isn't one of those super OP picks that just feels mindlessly oppressive. She takes a lot of skill to play, and more importantly, she requires allies to know how to use her kit. For example, for an ally to get a revive from your W, they have to know that it only happens if they reach 0 HP before getting a takedown. Getting a kill before dying doesn't really do anything to help them. Another big thing is her ultimate. If you land a 5-man Renata ultimate and then your Malphite flash ults immediately after, you're being griefed. The entire time the enemy team should be killing each other, and instead they're airborne. You need allies to understand how to layer their CC with yours to get the full effect. When Riot nerfed Talon jungle back on 12.2, they really got the job done, and he fell to the bottom of the jungle totem pole. But what Riot seemingly overlooked was how OP Talon mid has been doing. And it's not like he just popped up in the last patch or two. Talon mid has been one of the best performing champions in the role for months. Having impressive one-shot potential as early as level 2, paired with the best roaming kit in the game, makes Talon a super strong solo queue stomper. He's the perfect champion for playing against people that just lack coordination. Remember what we talked about earlier with Kennen, where a champion is doing poorly in its intended role but really good in a different one, and Riot buffs them anyway? Well, that's happening to Seraphine too this patch. These buffs will definitely help Seraphine support, but odds are Seraphine as a bot lane carry is what's really going to be OP. So if you're a team player that likes to tie comps together with utility picks, consider adding her to your champion pool. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum of Seraphine, we have Samira. With Seraphine, you want to safely farm up in the lane and get to 5v5s, where you support teams to victory. But with Samira, everything is all about you. You want to be aggro in lane, stomp your opponents, and then jump into a team fight and mow down the entire enemy team with your ultimate. I personally thought that Samira was already in a decent spot. She's a high risk, high reward pick, so she shouldn't have a high win rate. She already pops off hard when she gets a lead. These buffs are going to make it so that she's more consistently able to do that. If you plan on playing Samira, I really recommend you try to find a duo to queue with. She synergizes super well with engaged supports, but enchanters are definitely more so meta at the moment, so random supports will be playing those. Even when she was insanely strong after her release, I never really felt like Samira deserved to be nerfed so hard. I think she was a really fun champion to have in the meta, and even when she does a ton of damage, she's always still been a high risk pick. To dish out her ridiculous damage, Samira actually had to go into the middle of a team fight, leaving her open to the enemy team. And to me, that makes her a champion that, even at her strongest, has always had a sense of balance. However, I understand why they had to nerf her, right? So people could stop banning her. Anyway, that brings us to today's question of the day. What are some of the strong champions that are balanced out by being high risk, high reward? Let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. Now let's get back on topic, shall we? The next champion that we have for you is Kha'zix. He's another 2-lane wonder, able to completely dominate foes in both solo lanes. Between the short bursty trading power from his passive and the all-in threat that he has with his E, he's just too much for other laners to deal with. Being able to bully lane leads to being able to roam, and that's exactly what you want to do with Kha'zix. You can gank your other lanes, help make sure that your jungler is safe to take scuttle, and even go for solo invades against the enemy jungler. Just be sure to run Ignite for maximum kill potential. Oh, and please build Kraken Slayer in most games. You do not need Shield Bow unless you're against a very bursty opponent. Now let's talk about Jinx. For months now, the bot lane meta has been kind of stale. Aside from the introduction of Azeri to the game, it's been the same old champions at the top. And of those top tier marksmen, I think Jinx is the very best for carrying in solo queue. She scales the hardest by far for team fights, so even if you fall behind early because of a bad support or rough matchup, you have some late game insurance backing you up. Heimerdinger actually makes this list, and he makes it in more roles than any other champion. Yeah, he's actually considered OP in 3 roles, with those roles being mid, bot carry, and support. It could have been 4 roles, but with the anti-magic atomization being so easily accessible for bruisers now, Heimerdinger top isn't quite as good anymore. Finishing off our list, we have Kha'zix. Usually, assassins are high risk, high reward, with a need to snowball fast and hard to be useful once the mid-game rolls around. But Ka feels like he has absolutely no risk, but he still gets all the reward. He definitely can do massive bursts of damage, but he also has utility with his W evolve, and good extended damage, so he doesn't need to be ridiculously fed. Another reason Ka is so successful is his flexible itemization. When dealing with mostly squishies, you can go for a cookie cutter assassin build, stacking up lethality. But when the enemy team has more tanks and bruisers, the fights are going to be more drawn out, so you can change things up, like picking up bruiser items like Cleaver or Death Stance to match the pace. That wraps things up for our predictions for the 15 most broken champions on patch 12.5. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you sub so you never miss out on content like this. Remember to let us know what champion is OP but balanced out by being high risk down in the comments below. And one last thing, don't forget to check out our Discord in the description box below, where you can go ahead and discuss League further or just hang out and be part of the community. Can't wait to see you guys back in the next video, but until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.